So you often see that when we live, we come into an awareness, yes? And then we see things and we take them as we see them. But not always is life structured that way. So we could take this, for example, being the pyramids, yes? How they look when you become aware of them. They just look at this, don't they? And then we see some other telltale signs. Walls don't hold up very well. To me, it looks like a star. One side of a star.
Yeah.
Or compass or anything else like that. And there are a lot of ramps. It appears to have some sort of decorative... Anyway, when we look through history, everyone wants to be the most important, right? So they might destroy certain things in order to damage the image. And then what become a tomb looks more like a temple, a place of worship, stars, star people, different things like this. And the crown. Do you understand what the symbology of a crown is?
No.
Interesting. Anyway, I'm going to pull this off of here if I can get it off. So yeah, now obviously this looks like a compass to me. And it doesn't mean that it is that way, or it doesn't mean that it isn't.
Yeah.
But I would probably put a very large light on the top of here as well and have that burning for symbology of stars. Could be Orion, could be other things like that. Anyway, so we're moving on to the crown. I'm going to try and balance this over here. You don't need to pan with that.
Yeah.
So life is a bit like that as well for us, is our awareness. Do you ever feel that the essence in us is old, ancient?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
It allows you to live one way and it works with you. Being unaware, which is more automatic, I would say. And then there's one where you become aware and it goes into manual mode. You give it something to back and forth with.
Yeah.
It creates you, you're adding to it.
Yeah.
It adds to you. Interesting. And let's have a look at that. So we were talking about the crown, so the symbology of crown.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm going to draw this very randomly, but even still. And we often see gems on top as well, yes?
Yes, we do.
Which we could also say raindrop into a puddle. You also get a crown, yes? But you can also get this in planets. So planets appear to be round, but when you challenge the orbit with certain objects, and depending on perspective as well, you can encompass it into a crown. You just take moons and just keep orbiting them around, and they get smaller by default. Which you could look at as a type of ship, maybe, or it looks like an eye, maybe. All depends on how you look at it. So these are orbiting structures around, so you could take it as a moon. And the more you add from this perspective, it looks very nice. Keep adding moons, more moons, and then you go again. But because the planet be an oblate spheroid, you have to become closer to it in your orbit.
Yeah. That one is from the top, isn't it?
Yeah, this one's from the top down. And if you keep adding their orbits. Anyway, structure. And then you have one in the center. Again, it also looks like a lot of different things, but from the side perspective, it'll look more like this. A diamond. Also a crown, depending on how you do it. So what if you had structures coming this way that are orbiting around?
Yeah.
Symbology is interesting. Do you think that if any star beings were to travel or rendezvous in the universe, that you would see them have very symbolic structures that to primitive life, finding its feet, would interpret this in many ways? Whether it be a pyramid, whether it be this, and this, they were going to bring a lot of stuff with them. That's one thing that we would have to look at in life forms. Many different life forms think that life is this, what we see now. But it can be that, but it can be more. I mean, it can also be less. So on the last one, particularly a long time back, I was drawing a spectrum, which I should really... maybe I'll take this a little bit. I drew it as a pyramid the last time.
Yeah.
As the structure of different life forms, and you get the primitive. I just go pry. And then primitive life, what would you class that category as? It's never really the bottom, to be honest. It's more like a baseline and then spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Certain primitive life has to grow and evolve. And then you have this with intelligent life. So if we put intelligent life forms on this one, so it starts off from a point. Yes, backbone from primitive and different things like that. And then an evolution chain is probably the bit that keeps you going anyway. And you reach a stage where it can become the wood stage or the environment stage. You look at animals and that's more of a primitive human, if you want to understand it that way. Where you might take twigs and build a nest.
Mm-hmm.
This nest might be a house.
Mm-hmm.
The ivory is still a nest. And you might collect things in the environment to use and utilize, and then that's very primitive. And then you are mainly functioning on environment structure. You are reliant on it.
Yeah.
You're reliant, there goes all the pens. You're reliant on a lot of factors.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of it is in your hands, it's out of your hands.
Yeah.
So we put outer. And then as you progress slightly in the invention with using the environment a little bit more, understanding resources, you might create a bow and arrow.
Mm-hmm.
It's still out of your hands, but it's going towards more your hands. All of this is reliant on timing, planet, star, seasons, abundance of food, and not being eaten completely out to extinction.
Mm-hmm.
And then you begin to grow and do things, taking the environment to sharpen your edge. So you are more of a prey state in this aspect. You're a prey.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly but surely, by utilizing the environment, you become predator. Until you reach a point where we say now. So you begin to transform the environment quite a bit. Some people say it's bad, some people say it's good. It's all a part of the process, to be honest. So what does it bring mainly when you begin to transform with the environment? Well, we understand that we have a lacking of resources. That's one thing, which this lack then makes you seek more. In today's world, it's more about the planet, yes?
Yeah.
And if resources are heavy here, then it's to attack here, to claim here, to have resources, yes?
Yeah.
You see, that mindset, although it seems very bad, it's all part of the conditioning. It builds you. Because eventually, this is going to run out.
Mm-hmm.
No ifs, no buts, no maybes. Let's say if you make loads of breakthroughs on the earth, it's going to run out. There is not enough to simply collapse down into what you need it. The more you collapse it down, the more rarer things become. So you have to understand that cars, that's a lot of metal. Eventually, you reach a point where you might need to make plastic. You might need to do this. And then if you were able to convert those into, so you take the periodic table, for example, and let's say you could take hydrogen and make it into iron. You'll run out of hydrogen on the planet. Why? Well, because you're compressing it into something more dense. So you go from a loose perspective to a denser perspective, and the more denser you need more looser to create the more dense. It's the way it is. So humans reach these timelines and behavioral patterns that seem very devastating from the outside, but really it's building a behavior that makes you stop seeking this and makes you start looking up to space. And then the more you progress in this, the more wider it becomes, and it becomes more in your hands as opposed to out of your hands.
Yeah.
And then it's a question collectively to ask, which part of this do you want to be on? Do you want to stay stuck here? It just states that an environment of this nature will not support this. It cannot support it. So if you begin to overpopulate, this is detrimental. if you begin to overpopulate and then cut back nature, it's also detrimental. It's detrimental to the balancing of gases. Then, if we're using fuel sources, we understand that we're exchanging the gases from one to another a bit more quicker in certain aspects. And what's more, an abundance of resources seems like an abundance if your species stays below a bracket. When your species expands and you're utilizing resources, the resources now become small. Too small to sustain life. So therefore, it then creates an expansion. When you're not a fish. Often humans act like fish. They're not fish. Fish, if you overbreed them in a tank, they will reach the ends and dirty the water very quickly, and the environment is not enough to sustain them. So they need to find other environments to go and do this into, or you limit the numbers. To stay in that environment, to stay stuck in that environment, again, it seems like a great idea, but slowly but surely, it will begin to suffocate. The water won't hold it. It may hold 1 or 2 fish. Then you start adding in families and more and more and more and more. It begins to really dirty the waters, the resources become, and if you're given the same food that goes in, you might as well think of the creator has got you in a fish tank, being a planet. And what you're being fed, okay, is nature, but even still, it's got to, and this seems really fast and a lot, until something happens, which is out of your hands. Environment, flooding, famine, fire, all of that sort of stuff, again, makes your resources even smaller. Then there's the more of you, and everyone wants a car, or everyone wants a piece of metal, you're starting to really hamper in. And if we say that we're going to take those metals from the earth, well, we haven't been around long enough. We've come into the earth at this aspect, and we understand that there's X amount of metal where we mine it from the ground. And we say, well, the planet probably doesn't need it. That's because we don't know enough. We haven't been around long enough in a cycle to understand what is that doing. Because we might find out later that in order to sustain a magnetic field, and if it's too intense or if it's too weak, maybe it is just putting some of this stuff onto the surface in order to tone down a magnetic field. And when it needs to ramp it up, it then begins to start maneuvering these pieces. Basically, it's storing it. You understand this process with life, that it's a little bit using the environment to build or destroy. That's why the line goes below this line here, this baseline, because it can either go down or it can go up. You can use the environment in 2 ways. It can be beneficial. It can also be detrimental, depending on how you look at it. The planets seem to follow this same process. It would seem, but again, it's very hard to know that when you're born into it, and if the planet is going to cycle this way, and you've only been around for this much, what you see seems to be all, and therefore seems to be what you know. Without thinking critically, why does it do this? Is there more to this journey than meets the eye? Are planets just planets? Is that all they are? And then we ask another deeper question, can these turn into stars? Well, yes. Well, not the Earth, it's full of water. That's a lot of hydrogen. That's a lot of hydrogen. In fact, it's one of the most star creators as the fundamental beginning. So to think it, and again, that's a lot of energy even in that. So can planets convert into stars? Well, again, possibility, isn't it? Is it maintaining its magnetic field by spitting bits out and bringing it back in? In terms of metal, and if we overmine it and we don't see the process, there might be some knock-on effects that we misread. And we look at that and think, it might be because of this. And then we can go and build a whole lot of stuff around it. But is it because we've not been around long enough to see it? Perhaps the pyramids is the mystery. Everyone loves a mystery. It's because we weren't there to watch its construction. We come into it with a piece of a puzzle and think, it's always been like that then. Has it? Is it? Did someone find it one time and think, I want to be buried here? We've seen a lot of this burial desecration as we go along, and people breaking things in order to make their structure stand the test of time, right? Because It's only going to be us. We want to feel special. So let's break this and let's build some of this.
Mhm.
It's usually what we're in. Anyway, so moving on with that, the next step really is space, isn't it? And it's taking everything that looks like fear and scarcity and everything else and trying to look at that as abundance. And even then, if we start depleting the solar system, it will become rare again. And then you'll think, oh, what do we do if we stay here? There's enough to keep going in this cycle here, yes. But there's also a lot of extinction attached to that, risk associated with it.
Okay.
Interesting. So then you start looking around and think, what happens if we go over there?
Yeah.
Then the process starts again. And then it becomes another step, another step, another step. The more you progress on this, the more you discover, and therefore the tools. So in the beginning, the tools were out of your hands, not taking that process very well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you begin to refine your tools. And what do the tools allow you to do? Expand. Also be very destructive in the process. But again, sometimes getting on the verge of wrecking something usually teaches you, we might need to do something about this. And especially when times get like this, there's a convergence, isn't there? Do we have enough land to build? But we need houses. Just going to put hose. Maybe I could put homes. Yeah, why not? Let's say we need homes.
Mm-hmm.
But hold on. What about food? Oh, okay. So, okay, we're going to need some food.
Mm-hmm.
It's the crazy dance, isn't it? Really, when you think about it. And then what about if you need renewable power?
Yeah.
Energy. What about energy?
You need it.
And then we play this little dance of, whoa, okay, something's got to give in this equation, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But you look at space and think, can I expand food there? Right? And food, we often is disguised for gases.
Mm-hmm.
Balancing gases from carbon to oxygen. We kind of need that. As you're breathing out, it's breathing in, not in this perfect sentence, but over a longer period of time. It's quite sacred, isn't it? You're breathing out, it breathes in, you breathe back. And anyway, and it might store the carbon in its trunks as well. If you need that, then it's like a battery. A gas battery, though, turning the gases into solids and solids into gases, which is interesting. What do you think about lightning?
It's some energy charge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very interesting. And the more particles you've got bombarding together, there's more chance of lightning, yes?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very interesting thing. Have you ever heard of dark lightning?
No.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? How would you even perceive it?
What is it?
Well, for every force, there seems to be a counter. You know there are sprites, don't you? Lightning strikes that shoot upwards, not down. And they're so fast that you don't register them. Only with the invention of certain cameras are you able to see them.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Again, it goes back to the tools. The more tools you create from this rarity, the more you're able to see, the more you're able to know. And look at what you've done on a little. Think about what you could do with a lot. But there again, you need a lot of people. Because you reach trimesters. Sure, if the numbers go small, how do you know you've got enough time to bounce back from that? I mean, it's one of those things where people can state something, but then let's put one of those theories into practice and see how that actually transpires. Because in the process of where you may diminish life forms of yourself, you're also going to be opening the door up. Something has to fill that void. And yes, because it seems like it's been humanity explode each time, there was a time when humanity did not dominate this planet. Other life forms did. And just the same way that everything around you has been learning, everything has been learning. And when it gets selected to another life form, all of that learning, whether it is pushed outwards into other things, into nature, into this, and all of the tools that you have utilized, all of that information has been stored, and then it can start to grow self-defense in this.
Yeah.
With that self-defense mechanism, might not allow the expansion of humans again. That's the thing. because it will go beyond a certain area. And again, some of this stuff that cripples life forms in weaponry actually is detrimental going forwards. And then what are the mutations that that brings about? And perhaps not in you, but in anything else.
Yeah.
Some mutations are beneficial and some mutations are detrimental. And again, if you haven't seen the cycle play out, changes in sun, star activity also change life forms on the planet. Could be where the sacredness of looking up at stars. It's probably more along the lines of walking through a desert at night. It's cooler, the stars become the ceiling. Whereas other places it was more forest. Canopy was more of the ceiling, so they learned a bit more about canopy. And there you are, had tree god. You can see that, right? Druids, maybe. Carving into trees. Again, not further from the truth, because technically without nature, where would humans be?
Yeah.
So it's not far from the truth, really, is it? Very small tree there. And to think about that, it's also nature is not only directly supporting humans, it's also indirectly supporting humans in terms of food. And then your food also relies back on nature directly.
Yeah.
And it's also gases. So if we were looking at hierarchy structures, nature is it then?
Yeah.
Nature becomes quite a hierarchy. Certain bacteria as well also becomes a dominant factor.
Yeah.
That without us, it can live. That's interesting, isn't it? That is very fascinating, and yet we cut it down quite a lot.
Yeah.
So even without animals, it can still exist. It doesn't need practically much of that, to be honest, to exist. In fact, we become a hindrance to it. We notice the plants that when you're rough with them, notice the needles will change on the plant. Again, overconsumption of stinging nettles. That's another one.
Yeah.
It's it'd be a fascinating thing to see marijuana plants turn into stingers. Maybe not. Get stronger each time. But anyway, burning bush. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Other than it being a biblical reference, but what do you think about the burning bush? What do you think it teaches you? What about electric eels?
It burns the plants around, or itself?
It does burn the plants around. It also burns itself, but the seeds germinate. It kills off the competition. It's a very interesting plant.
Yeah, it is.
And it can be triggered by rocks cracking beside one another very gently. So if you've got livestock running across the...
So somewhere in dry environment?
Yeah. What happens if you take... Right, so we understand life forms being dominant, yes?
Okay.
We often look at humans. What happens if humans dominate? What happens if nature dominates? That's an interesting question entirely. But what type of nature? What happens if you took the burning bush and were to plant it onto a world that you picked? All right conditions. You see, these questions are massive. They're probably more this stage, to be honest. But when you've already started making planets and different things like that, your own version maybe orbit around the planet as moons, which also generate energy in its own right, plus a lot of lightning. Lightning is quite good in certain aspects. The whole universe needed lightning in the beginning. Sparks. This is what made the gases get heavy and come together in the beginning. Interesting. Its fusion ability is interesting. That's why I always ask about dark lightning. But anyway, what happens if you totally cover a moon with the right gases on it, and let's say you make a glass atmosphere, as opposed to, holding the gases using the layers. Recreate the Earth's atmosphere and perhaps maybe the layers stay. A glass atmosphere, possible. Not just any glass, but it also has a liquid crystal inside it that reacts very quickly to a breach, so it self-seals, yeah? Let's just suppose you do this and there's loads of these connected to a humongous clockwork mechanism. And one side moves one way whilst one moves the other way. Should hopefully give an artificial gravity. But let's say you put loads of plants on here, especially the burning bush. Is there a high chance that they can create an awful lot of oxygen inside that environment from carbon?
Yeah.
What happens then if you were to ignite something in there?
Then you consume the oxygen?
And turn it into carbon, but you also created a colossal amount of heat. What happens if you had 6 of these and one burnt after the other, burnt after the other, burnt after the other? And by the time that the rest have all burnt after this is big thinking, by the way. It's like looking at a load of cars in a car lot and thinking that each one of them is a planet that contains, let's just say for argument's sake, burning bush moment.
Yeah.
Just jam-packed with the burning bush and every other thing. And each time it lights, it was put into a giant engine that creates power, energy. And then the next ones that grow in that have got a lot of food. You see, that's a big difference. When we've got a planet that's full of life forms, this planet is infested with life. It's really infested. Even we get infested, even the eyelashes. We're completely infested with life, right? And that's all bubbling and popping out and everything, yeah? But what happens if you start to put these individually on different biomes that you create? Ooh, changes a lot.
Yeah.
Take eels, for example. What happens if you did the same with a load of eels? Each biome contained nothing but eels. The perfect environment that allows them to absolutely spread in their big numbers. My pens are completely out. I've got to get some more. With tons of eels in there, yes? Loads. Big. Earth size. Moon size even. How much energy do you reckon you could get from that? There's a constant electricity. Do you think you could do it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty huge, isn't it? Because it's, hopefully, in this aspect, it would be self-sustaining. Obviously, if the numbers go too big, that meets extinction. When we've got them all on the planet together, they make a lot of noise, a lot of interference with a lot of things. What happens if you were to put these all individually and organize them, neaten them up? Place where they can live in abundance. Now, could that be beneficial? Now, imagine it with livestock. That's enough milk. See, you're already doing it with milk. Chickens. That's an eternity supply of eggs. As long as you can keep the balances right. Obviously, the chickens need a little bit more. They all depend on this.
Yeah.
Electric eels, that's a generation. Can you imagine how much food is in that? There's also a lot of methane and other things, for sure. As time goes on, you'll learn to knock those gases, defuse them, or fuse them with other things, just by learning the universe, right? Moving stars and different things like that is another step. Playing around with black holes, that's an even massive step. Each of these is steps. And everyone says, well, it's got to be about patience. You've got to be patient to reach the pyramid steps from one to the other. But do you?
You have to be progressing, that's sure.
How quick is manufacturing?
Quick.
Why is there speed attached to that?
Because it becomes a norm, and norm you have everything, I don't know how to say, everything ready to make that, whatever you are making, in speed.
So it becomes faster, and then when you lift it up and put it out into space, it's incredibly slow. But it starts off slow, a bit like sailing was very slow, limited thinking. And then all of a sudden you reach abundant thinking. Do you ever think that life's steps could be as fast as that?
Yeah.
If you aligned your reality to focus speed on this as opposed to money. Money is good, don't get me wrong, it can factor into this, but if life was aligned to more of these steps, how much more further would we be already if we haven't trotted on this step repeatedly in a loop?
Yeah.
Because we're stuck in it. We're stuck in this.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
As opposed to keep building these. Again, you don't really need electric eels or a burning bush. Just understanding Jupiter and Io is the one where it causes a lot of discharge, a lot of lightning in that big hydrogen gassy thing, almost telling you about the universe. So the universe will pop after the Big Bang, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Take it with a pinch of salt. You don't have to. Up
Yeah.
to you. Whoops. That was very poor, but even still. Got to start somewhere. Big explosion, lots of hydrogen, yes? And hydrogen colossally hitting into each other is going to generate quite a bit of energy, which is going to make like static, like sparkling. Some of these hotspots are going to be more intense depending on where there's discharge, and then this is going to start to bring in things, and then you get the first formation of stars. So you have darkness and an abundance of gas. Lightning strikes, few and far between. Lightning strikes, all of these come together to create the first stars in the overwhelming darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Bit by bit, transition. Lots of gas now equals less gas, more matter. More matter, dense objects, more denser it becomes, then you have more stars. More stars then lead into the creation of more density, more magnetism, more to generate this field, then leads on to black holes, which could be then neutrino stars. And a few others in between that, don't get me wrong, they all help. Supernovas, they're very quick, but they burn out very fast. Even still, they all have their place. And then you have a larger amount of neutrino stars seem few and far between until really they become very abundant. And what they're doing when they get more and more abundant, so until then you move through phases of stars, you'll notice the stars that once were in the beginning no longer form, and these types take over. Why? They then start creating a colossal amount of dark energy compressed, and you will then say black holes. Now, interesting with these things, they seem to be like spiders on magnetism, on a magnetic belt, and they find their way and they merge together. Stars like to pop their stuff out into the universe and share it. But they're very social, and they're antisocial in their own right. They enjoy their own company, usually. When there's two stars around each other, they kind of irritate each other. Black holes are like, come here, bring your little ass over here. I'm going to merge with you. We're going to share information with each other, you know, they become the sharers.
Yeah.
The more this happens, and then you've got galaxies. You can always tell the strength of a black hole on the amount of reach that it has in order to align stars. Now, they can move up and down very freely, but their orbit, their dance around, is very reminiscent to a moon, which is very reminiscent to a spacecraft falling around the planet. That is until the planet begins to expand its gases. The core can stay the same, but when it's gases, well, it's got more reach now. And its magnetic field alignment almost seems to align most of the stars' magnetic fields, so they understand magnetism on their own. They have to climb like spiders. But when they're together, my word, aren't they mighty? They tend to hold the stars in that little dance, look like little octopuses. Do you notice how they look like an octopus?
Yeah.
One of those fairground rides that you see. How I look at, but they look like an invisible octopus because you've got the main part, but you've also got the invisible magnetism that then colossals over the main magnetic field. Interesting. And I wonder how far the star's reach really is.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Then these become thick and far between. Galaxies from one to another seems to be buggering off this way. I can't really see that far. My instrument's limited. Doesn't mean that the instrument is not capable. It means it's dated. Then you make another one, you see slightly further, and then you make another modification and you see slightly further.
Yeah.
So if I take one of the old, oh yeah, I think I see some land over there. There's some sort of little dot over there. But then I take some of the stuff that's made today, and it's like, oh, I can actually see people waving. Oh look, I can see seashells on that shore. Maybe we should sail over there. All the ones using the predated technology will be like, don't know what you're on about. It's magic is what it is. You know, this is going to grow because the tools get better and better and more enhanced. Well, interesting. So you build the technology and then you begin to see more, which then you begin to, perhaps it answers some questions, but it also asks more. That's the thing. It's sort of like, okay, here's your answer, but I raise you these questions. It's never really a full, nice cycle. Anyway, then these ones are falling into something over here, which probably is another black hole
Yeah.
and another galaxy, and they're going to merge together, hold on to their information. Some get lost in the process, don't get me wrong. It's not perfect. But eventually this keeps going. Plus the neutrinos transition from current stars moving over. This means you're getting closer to a wind down of a cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's only a few galaxies left. In that time, you've spent a lot of time doing this. And you should have been probably taking all of that interest in. Because if you're only just learning stars and we stay labeled, we trick ourselves by saying this. What's the speed of light? This. Naturally, yes. Can you make it faster? No. This is not possible. It is possible. We trick ourselves. We often or not, we trick ourselves by thinking that something is everything when we don't look at it as category, as, yeah, that's correct. Like Edward Hubble and Einstein. Einstein said that everything was coming together. And Hubble said, no, everything's moving away because of the redshift. And then I stood in between these two theories, right? Because I was looking at them, and I was just like, you're both right. You're both correct. And then people sort of like, whoosh, wait, what? How can they both be right? Are you mad? Yeah, they are both right. Because Edward Hubble is seeing one version of it, and Einstein is seeing this version of it. And then there's just a little piece in the middle that just needs to bridge that gap. It's a bit like what holds the carbon and, let's say, the hydrogen together. The band in the bands, yes? That's what holds them together. That's all it needs. They've got two pieces here and here. We want to formulate a substance, which is outcome. We just got to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
These ones are moving away, but it looks like it's expanding in comparison. Technically, it is. Einstein sees it as coming together. He swore the answers were in his equations, that he just couldn't see it. And he's absolutely right. See, that's him being aware of being incorrect, or not having all of the bits of information there to... Interesting. But again, let's say if Hubble and Einstein were arguing with each other, how much of that would be lost in battling each other as who's right?
Yeah.
How many people would then be crowd pleasers as, I'm on Einstein's side, he's making a good sense. And then people are like, yeah, but he just said this, okay, I'm going over here with Hubble then. Yeah, Hubble, yeah, Einstein, you know what you're talking about. And then everyone's like, well, Einstein will say this. And then you're like, yeah, fuck that, Hubble, you know? Whoa, we're so lost in between it. It's like, what are we now? Do we become the ball in the middle? Or... And his opinion, oh, he said this about you. Oh yeah, this one said this about you. He did it? Yeah, he did. And you know, fire the cannons. Yeah, it's interesting. It keeps you battling, and then it's pointless. It's trivial. Why? Because you got to fight about the stuff that just doesn't make. That's not it. That's not. But if we were to come together as a species in that, rather than divide and conquer, which is clearly what's happening there, you got two factions, and they'll argue the toss with each other. Who's right? And we could be looking, we missed the point then of what is this?
Yeah.
And then as we progress, we look back and think, oh yeah. Yeah, fuck you, Group A and Group B. You know, sort of thing. And anyway, maybe we'll take the mighty high ground, and then we're missing a piece of the puzzle further on. But anyway. So when one is pulling towards here and we can't see it, you can take this with, they say that the ships go off of the horizon and you can't see it with your eyes. Then you take one of those, oh, I can see the ship again now, and then it same dip disappears over the horizon. And then you take a mighty zoomed in Hubble. I'm standing on the beach with Hubble. Matey besides got the X174 camera with the billion times 1,000 zoom. The next one's holding and someone else is standing there with a magnifying glass. Oh yes, I see it, Pippin, tip, tip. And the other person standing there with eyes. The one with eyes will say that they can't see, the ship has disappeared, it's gone. Yeah. There must be an invisible force pulling that. So it must be expanding because the ship is going this way. The next one over is like, no, that's not, oh wait, yeah, it did. And then the next one over with this is like, no, I can still see it, you guys are wrong. Oh wait, no, the ship's, it disappeared, it went, you're right. And then the next one comes along and they're like, yeah, with their camcorder-y thing. I can still see it. You guys are talking shite. You see it? And then the next one comes along. So me sitting there with my fucking Hubble. And having a look. No, it's still there. And then people start saying, well, the world must be flat then. Oh, yeah, that's a tricky thing. Doesn't atmosphere scatter light? So what's your sight? Is your sight able to bend? What is bending when we see an eclipse and we see stars projected on a moon? Maybe it's because the moon is hollow. Yeah, it could be that. It is that. Well, okay, all right, it could be that. Or maybe it's because the gravitational pull is allowing you to see that. That could also be right. But I just want to factor you guys in with something. What's that then? Do your eyes bend around that? Can your sight be manipulated?
Yeah, do they follow the light, your eyes?
Yeah, and if that is true and it's bending one, then you're going to perceive it as interesting, really, isn't it? It's weird how our eyes lie, the internal eyes never lie. The brain sort of locks things out. Isn't that interesting? But anyway, even still, so we can see all of this stuff expanding.
Yeah.
But are we aware that we might not be able to see this bit over here of what it's falling into?
Yeah.
And then it goes away from our perspective and then it disappeared. There might be a massive dark energy dragon over there gobbling up galaxies. Oh my God. Anyone want to build a new religion?
Yeah.
Until then I could know that there's going to be a long time before there's going to be any proof on that. That's it. I'm going to shine my shoes now. Come on, shine my shoes. Why? Well, because if not, that dragon will come and get you. Come on, shine it. So then we could start believing that, and then maybe we should start doing some things. Maybe if we're good, or maybe if we're doing this, we won't anger that thing that might munch our galaxy. And then we can become in fear mindset, and then we can start conjuring up loads of stuff. But if we actually go there and have a look, it's like, no, actually it was falling into another galaxy. It's still there. Wait, what? But I don't see it. Yeah, but the person in the spacecraft that traveled over here now can see that. It didn't disappear off the horizon. Does that mean we live in a flat universe? Or is it rounded and things sort of... it's interesting, isn't it? But again, we've only been born into this awareness and we only see it this way. And then a book might tell us it's this way. That's why we should really put loads of question marks at the end of every single book. Question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of science fact as well, isn't it, really? To say, question mark. Maybe this one's going to be upside down because we sort of believe this one more. But, we got to... So we don't get complacent in that. That's what I like about science. It's a bit more, hopefully, fluidity and being okay to be wrong. That means you're full of shit. Not really. No. It means that you're aware. And then people might be like, but you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. You should walk forwards and be like, yes. Yes, I am. Because if we stay in that sort of, Einstein's right. No, this one's right. Oh, okay. Okay, now you're right. I'm coming over here now. We can get lost in that. We often do. So anyway, if it comes over, this one's merging with this one merges with this one's merging with this one. But in merging, it's got bigger.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit more bigger. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's just brought stars from over here, and it's just brought stars from this end. What are the ingredients in that one? I'm willing to bet that they are completely different to the ones over here. From our perspective, we can say it's all the same. The periodic table works for every single star. We've mapped them all. Upside down question mark. Why? Because if we go there and test it, it's like, yeah, it's similar, but this has got some shit in here we've never seen before. I don't know, how did you make that? I need to study a little bit more. Ingredients over there are slightly different. And this is a faster way of bringing ingredients together. Because it is a hell of a colossal distance to travel from one to the other. Technically, it's not when you know how to make the right engine. But now, that black hole is now merging together. It wants to hold all of the things it's made. They're mine. You can't have them stars, because look, you look after it. And before you know it, you've got this one has now increased its gravitational pull. And it might want to fall into something that we can't see further over. And then it brings it closer, and then we become aware of it. Oh, hold on a second. What the hell is that? It came out the void. Or if it was a void, and then this one will fall and merge, and it will become bigger, and therefore there are more stars. And so you keep going with this process. Oh, and some get destroyed in the process of galaxy mergers. No ifs, no buts. Some hitting. Those black holes have got to eat something. They get hungry. And then there's a time limit, isn't there, on humanity then, isn't there? How long are these resources going to lay around for?
Yeah.
Well, clearly not long, because eventually you're left with only a few galaxies left.
Mm-hmm.
And it merges, and then it eats, and then pop, off it goes again. And that's that ancient essence that I think is within us all. Yeah, I feel it. I feel it. Some spiritual leaders have felt it throughout history. They all call it very different things. I haven't really labeled it anything, really. It just, yeah, it's challenging to label whatever that feeling is. Everybody is able to access it. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. Perhaps what works for one won't work for someone else, and the label is going to be different. But we're all on about the same thing. We're all on about the same, whatever you call it. Some people call it light, some people call it darkness, some people call it whatever you want to call it, to be honest. Yeah, interesting, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this cycle continues. Now, life forms that rise up now, how do you ever notice that the minds are more advanced than reality?
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah.
That you can conjure up things. Everything that's been created in our whole environment, vicinity, everywhere else, has been created from the mind. First, that craziness that is often ridiculed as opposed to embraced, yes? That madness, so to speak. And then everyone's like, God, it is so mad. And then they go and shut their front door. Yeah, that was, someone thought that up, plus a house, it was also thought up. The mind seems to know a lot more of almost how to create reality in a way that serves a good purpose for you, but it's also very susceptible to being manipulated, which again, no skin off of its nose, because if it does, then the species, it allows other species to rise up, works more with the ones that work with it. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing, isn't it, to go on in the universe. And again, planets. You live less on a planet than you do in space. You live longer. Sure, you're going to change. Probably look like an octopus. Probably life forms start to end up looking like blobs. But it seems to work in space, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. Very interesting. And then you get to play around with stuff if you can think further. What happens if we put all of these on each one of their own planets? And then if we give them multiple planets, and then begin to orbit that by understanding the orbit of the planet. We've got to understand that, yes, this is going to block out light. But if we then learn to orbit the sun, for a little while that's going to work. You can have summer all the time. Goldilocks zone, again, that's another thing that gets said a lot. You hear about the Goldilocks zone? Earth's in a Goldilocks zone.
Yeah.
Not too hot, not too cold. Sometimes it swings between the extremes of hot and cold. But the Goldilocks zone is theorized to move, yes?
Yeah.
Which gives you an indication then, doesn't it, of something. What will the planet probably not do? Come on, Earth. Let's roll back a little bit. No, I want to be a star. I know. A very good star indeed. If it gets big enough and enough mass, well, throw Earth into Jupiter, for example, and I think Jupiter will begin to start flickering, pulsing maybe, igniting. Add a little bit more to Jupiter, and I think that you're on your way to becoming a star. The same processes that happened for Jupiter can happen to the Earth.
Yeah.
All on the right meteorite. And we haven't seen any stars explode in our vicinity. Yes, many light years away, perhaps the remnants of the gamma ray burst, but then the light goes out. Things that are usually thrown out of a cup create quite big icy crystals, don't they? If it wasn't for the dynamics, I think you would need a vacuum to probably test that, but there again, you can't throw the water, so that's an interesting thing. Interesting, very interesting. When a star explodes, it creates shards, big shards. So that is going to, well, disrupt things. But we haven't seen it, right? Because we think that, well, it hasn't happened in this, for far back as our history goes, 2,000 years odd, we have never seen that. So we believe that that's never going to happen. Again, it's a very silly thought to have. based on that. It's like, what if it could? But we don't live on those. We are living on a what if. Earth is. Come on. Come on, you know you want to roll back a little bit. Come on, follow the Goldilocks zone. And it's like, nah, you fucking do it. I've done my bit. I want to be a star. But you might not be a star. Yes, but if that explodes, I could come back as a... Anyway, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I don't think it thinks in that way. Humans think in that way, but it gives you the ability to move in the Goldilocks zone. Which you never know. This Goldilocks zone could be leading you to safety. Because that star, okay, all right, we understand. Egyptians to bow down to the sun god.
Yeah.
If they still had that belief, ancient Egyptians still had the belief of worship Ra or the star.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when it starts getting angry then? Oh, hold on. It's because we didn't make a sacrifice. Who's being sacrificed? Can't be me. I'm a good one. Any of you lot? You'll do. Come on. Oh, what do I have to do? You'll find out. Here's a blindfold. Cigarette? Do you see how that can become quite a damaging belief? That can be quite, because you've now anchored yourself to the star, and the star's going to be so long living in your understanding, perhaps their understanding back then, as opposed to treating it like a fine art museum. Admire it. Yes, it's great, but also doesn't it burn? Doesn't it also create radiation? Doesn't it also cause life forms to, get extinct? And doesn't it spit things out? It isn't prejudiced, is it? It doesn't care. Oh, only at Jupiter's then today. I said all of them. Here, you all have it. And with that, that's... do you want to die with that belief? Or do you want to create a belief that's always changing, hypocritical, questioned, and leads you onto a path of, should we really do this? You know, another belief is we should stay sacred to the earth.
No.
Again, if we start worshipping the earth, and you know, if we believe that there's a goddess in the planet, and she's to say that we're to stay here, don't question her, do this, and this, and then we stay there. You know, we're then dependent on it, as opposed to farms, food, energy, gases. Moisture, how long is the moisture going to last in the universe? We think, because it's been there in times of Galileo or Giovanni Cassini, I can't remember, was looking up and, you know, drawing these sort of, they thought they were wings to start with, I think, because of the tools were limited, and then time goes on, you build better tools. Look at all the tools that humanity has built with rare content.
Yeah.
And we think it's really good. But again, this branch leads out another way, by the way. You can keep adding to these. It's never one complete line. The line is, it gave you something, and then you progress. The line sort of follows. Anyway, and it almost seems to know before, it's done it before. So how many successful life forms has it guided out of this? That's another question, isn't it, really? Because it seems to know an awful lot before you've lived it. So some people were like, I'm going to make a telephone. Dumbass. And then they start to do it, and it's like, whoa. Communication, what's that really great for? Traveling in space, what have I found? I found this. Sharing information. It feels good, doesn't it? Oh, we just discovered something. Quick, tell them back there that we found this. That information travels. Yeah, all right. What you tell us for? Do you need more help? Yes, we need to get this stuff. All right, we're sending more. When you begin to lift this stuff, it becomes very valuable. Oh, God, look at what we can do with this.
Yeah.
And Earth is baseline. There you are. That's default. The sun. Where are your eyes? Default. Rare earth minerals. Contents. There you are. Animals. Nature, all of it, all put everywhere, right? Scattered, infested, wild. I'm not saying that it can't plant all of these individually, but what can you do with that? Do you see, however this force is, the creating force, whatever you want to call it, ancient force, symbology, well, what's it doing? It's creating creators. Why? Have you ever wondered why it could be doing that? I know why you did this. Why is that? So I can fill my pockets up with loads of cash and I'm going to make a staircase out of money all the way to you. To bring you what? Money. I joke about it a little bit. Yeah, it works, but it's not everything. It is a tool. I appreciate that. But tools can be used in wrong ways and correct ways, can't they?
Exactly.
So yes, if we have these sort of problems here, so what, food, energy, homes, gases. What happens if we start building modules? How do we make our small amount of resources turn into something even bigger? Well, we have to reverse the process of what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't think houses are built to be this way. I think they have multiple purposes. One, well, these houses are built to look through.
Yeah.
As opposed to keep you warm. I think they're more for info.
Yeah, they're
Holding
not,
on to a structure, maybe.
not very practical, are they?
And then perhaps the boiler and different things like that. It's the same process for the best part of it's fixed into one sort of. What if we change the surrounding? And space is naturally a vacuum. Hot or warm objects stay warmer. They're not losing or leaching. So do you need less heat in that environment? Maybe you need more, maybe you need less, who knows? And to cool it, you can add a barrier to that. What happens if you bring that factor down to here? You know, if I ever see a flask drown, I'll get a little concerned. But usually if you get the lid on those, they tend to bob.
Okay.
That means they're flood-proof then, watertight. Sure, there'll need to be an exchange of oxygen. That's the eureka moment, isn't it? How much vegetation connected to this does it create or sustain one whole family? What type of bacteria? Never mind feeding fish in a pond somewhere, but what about just taking some little foods in there to help the bacteria? And then in helping this particular bacteria that breaks down, or growing plankton, or whatever it may be, I mean, how much of that is then going to regenerate from breath? Then also give food, then also give this, and this. Anyway, if you put that into space, then what? Space farms, they're interesting. They're orbiting around the moon. How much more food could you bring in? And then that poses another question. Would that then make more buildings for people to build on the planet? That would then be detrimental. Why? Because it would shrink your gases.
Yeah.
Because the more people there are, already, if we say that already now that we've got this much resource to use and give people in gas or whatever, electricity, and then all of a sudden you start creating space farms, you're going to then expand further, and via result, the resources are going to get smaller by default. So something needs to change in that mechanism as well, doesn't it? How can we only burn a freaking candle's worth of heat, which could be done outside, very small amount, hits the right area, but then allows a large amount of heat in that is lacking to escape. And with that, how much more hotter can you get inside your environment without leaching it out into the environment off of a very small flame?
Okay.
Then if you factor in a tank that's made out of a flask, highly pressure, absolutely, but if you're in your protective area and it's outside, also protected, if anything untoward were to go wrong,
Yeah.
I suppose it washed the outside. But even still, that's a larger amount of water, very little energy. Just use what you need before it refills, and then it does again. Heats up. Yes, that's going to use a fair bit of heat in the process, but it's then not going to lose it. What's the point in heat in a tank for it to then cool down into your house, which is technically radiating out into the environment, and then we wonder why it gets hotter and hotter. There again, if we stop that process, and if we think about it, how many water tanks are in people's houses?
Yeah.
Are we talking millions? Are we hitting at 1 billion yet? Well, that's a lot of heat.
Yeah.
That's a lot of heat being heated and I'll say, oh, we put a jacket on it. It'll sort of heat inside your house, and then inside your house it's sort of heating outside in the environment too.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than needing X amount of radiators, well, that becomes a thing of the past. And then is it durable enough for space, long term? Then could you imagine finding even more resources? And you can look at that and think, wow, we've just expanded food.
Mm-hmm.
We've just expanded habitat.
Yeah.
We've just expanded the gases and the cleaning of gases. How much more of your population can expand into that? And then if we look at the numbers, how many breakthroughs have come through? How many more are expected to come through? That's quite a lot. And then how many eyes and ears are there? Could you imagine hunter-gatherers, just a small group of them from what you came, where it was out of your hand, trying to discover all of these discoveries around the planet? Just, I don't know, a couple of tribes that come together. Just the Roman Empire with their roads. Imagine if it was just them. How long would it take them to really be able to see what's going on? And then when you expand, how many more breakthroughs happen? More. Why? Because more people are seeing things. If they're taught correctly, that's a hell of a breakthrough, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then education. What is education? Qualification? Or is education about doing something, a way of life, a way of living, a way of being becomes the overall education? If you want to do something, you can do it. But I think it's more so in space, don't you?
Yeah, that should give you knowledge to be able to work on something, shouldn't it?
And no longer reliant on Earth's forever changing climate.
Yeah.
And that's really it. Humans are like soldiers, ants, if they align themselves. But rather than being a separated colony, they work for a common colony and a common goal. Well, how long would it take if all humans work together? And we say that they don't make ideal worlds. I beg to differ. I think it's not a world that you want to create. It's an ideal situation in space that needs to be created, and the rest should just fall into line. If people come together in the past times to build things like pyramids, the Mayans, the temples, all of them, every single one, churches, modern churches, massive monasteries, right? Some of them are fucking huge, aren't they? When people come together for a common cause, how quick do things get done? Well, it's very quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's finding the blueprint and it's walking the blueprint, trial and error.
Yeah.
And then how many symbolic orbits are we going to have of different structures? Especially if you look at the moon, turn it into a diamond.
Yeah.
And then if we figured out how to bounce the light correctly, we could light up the dark side continuously. You see, because that's one thing as well, isn't it? The planet is absorbing light, yes? Which is therefore energy and therefore heat.
Yeah.
Even if we blocked it at the top, when it got hotter, the colder parts will become more colder. The winters will get colder. That's a sort of weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you think? And then what happens if you block it at the poles? Give them a bit of a weird orbit so that, you know, when it's tilted away, it's more closer to the sun, so it mimics summer. This can expand the ice, but where's it too much? Everything's a balance in this sort of stuff, isn't it?
You have to try, otherwise you don't know, do you?
Or you can bounce the light. So if we see that the sun is in multi-directions, it is worse than a compass. It's in so many different areas, the light is traveling in multiple areas at once. We're receiving what? A percentage of it. So even if the light from your perspective from the Earth, so yeah, I can rub some of this out. You know, I'm just offloading some stuff, and then we'll get into some better ones later date. This one's just preliminary. Let's have a look. Now, I'm probably not going to be able to wipe this one off, but I need pens. Yeah? And let's say the star is here. I'm going to draw it practically the same size, because from our perspective, that's how it looks, yes? But we see that the energy is reaching here, yes? And perhaps, yeah, coats most of the planet in that way. Let's say maybe it's a bit more, depending on the angle. We don't going to worry about that. But also, what we're also forgetting is the light is also traveling in this direction, this direction, this direction,
All
that
the
direction.
direction, yeah.
Multiple directions that you can imagine, right? So what happens if we put something here?
It gets light as well.
Yeah. But what happens if we were then able to bounce it into from a different perspective at certain modules? Or if we were thinking about the moon, what happens if we were able to synchronize an orbit around it?
Yeah.
And begin to utilize the energy of the star from different areas, so we're not tapping into it from here. You don't want to reflect the light from here and make it bounce over to here and then here. No. You want to think above it. Can we grab that light, throw it into this, and then hit the dark side? Then you have a lit moon all the time. Both sides lit at the exact same, and they receive the exact same energy as much as we can give it. And then what does that do for then farming? Oh, it's going to heat the moon up, don't get me wrong, that's definitely going to heat it. But if we were to absorb it into farms, can we then start to grow food without actually causing a problem on the Earth? But it does mean that we'd have to travel to the moon.
Yeah.
Which could be cool, because if you think about it, if each nation had their own space station, and people will say, oh, deep fakes and different things like that, whatever. That's a weird, tricky belief that makes you believe that it's fake, so that you go, nah. And another one is qualifications become ridiculous in that sort of thing. I understand that there are needed qualifications in order to get it lifted off the ground, but other than that, I think after that, I think it should be a bit more relaxed. Yeah. Yeah, I find it qualifications are a strange thing. They're good, but I think way of life is better. It's more potent, isn't it? Could you imagine if they made modules that have equal time to go around the moon, not from the star, but from the Earth? Around the moon? Rendezvous for a few days?
Yeah.
But also be able to tap into some of the oxygen in there, bring back some food and seed it at different intervals. I mean, that makes horticulture on a whole nother level, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Also shading these. One side is in the light, the other isn't. And if there are gaps, yes, it's going to heat the moon, but there again, what happens if you absorb that? So rather than it being wasted, it's hit into solar panels on there. And you've got solar remote control cars or diggers or, and the light follows them. That would be an interesting thing, especially with the invention of solar panels. It's basically one up on a tree, isn't it, really? Their leaves tend to move and follow the sun. They chase the sun. But one thing they can't do is, could you imagine if they could run around the planet and always walk with the light? I mean, they grow bigger. But could you imagine if humans did this on any planet or moon, to be able to bounce the light and concentrate it onto solar cells? To amplify it, especially if we use magnifying glasses. I don't know. But yeah, growing food around here means that you can stay there for longer term. You don't actually need to go down to the moon, although it probably would be nice. Some would be really into that. But it means that you could stay a lot longer. If this is generating a lot of oxygen, I mean, that's a lot of exploration. Already you're conquering the moon. If you go and put gases on the moon and begin to expand them and puff them up, I think you'll lose them. They'll be leached and it becomes a waste. But if you can contain them and breathe them like a scuba diver does, and exchange these based on the food that's there, you've already got food, you've already got gases exchanging, and you already have habitat. And you've got heat and light, especially if you bounce the light in the right way. I mean, that would be interesting. What could you find there with more time? Because if you're there for a little bit on holiday, well, you see some things, take a few snapshots, and then you've got to go home again.
Yeah.
It's not enough time, is it? Some people say it's not enough time to enjoy myself, and not enough time to have explored it, really. You just touch the surface and... But if you had longer time there, months, weeks, years, and then what's more, as you're there, extending the habitat, and then there are more plants, whatever else, modules get bigger. Because Because, I mean, they're going to have a limit, aren't they? But there again, it would be about refracting the light, reflecting the light in the right sort of way to make it so that it scatters inside these modules, which then allows you to grow more food, which then, in essence, if you find any types of gases elsewhere, especially Mars. Now, maybe it is, maybe it isn't logical to go to Mars.
Yeah.
But can you send something there to suck up a load of that carbon dioxide and bring it back to one of your modules around the moon and pump that carbon dioxide into there? And the plants grow in carbon dioxide that was not from Earth. I mean, it seems like a weird thing, but... And they begin to convert that into oxygen.
Yeah.
Again, it's abundance gas is hydrogen on there, plus carbon, isn't it? Hydrocarbons.
Yeah.
What about plankton? Never seen water in space, large amounts of water in space. Seen a car in space, interesting. Seen Mir in space, satellites in space, NASA's International Space Station in space. But what about water? Come on. I mean, the stuff is incredibly heavy, yes, but in gases? That would be an achievement, wouldn't it? But that would have to be got in a very different way to sort of knock some ice somewhere into some chunks and collect those. And then put them into a vat of varying size, and then begin to melt it. And then keep it at this sort of melted temperature. Well, the water's going to become rounded, but what happens in that?
Yeah.
What happens if you're in that with an oxygen mask on, a bit like a scuba diver? I just wonder, what would that be like? And then what happens if you put animals in it, for goodness sake? And never mind animals, first it would be plants.
Yeah.
How would a coral reef stand up in something like that? And then what are the gases if you surround it in carbon? Does it do it quicker? Or you see, this is the possibility, isn't it? They're endless. You make biomes. You then become planetary makers. In a small sense, but even still, it starts off small. And then before you know it, when you look back, and the future generations have come, you start all of these small little projects. They start off very small and insignificant in the beginning. Did you know what will happen? The more humans that are around, in order to get around boredom, rather than, they'll live comfortable. That's the one thing you want. But they'll expand these. And before you know it, they've collected most of the gases that are available. Yeah. They've learnt ways of not only knocking off. You see, that's a beautiful thing as well, isn't it? C4, hydrogen, CH4, isn't it? Uranus. Yeah. Yeah, I think. Can't be sure. Anyway, but let's just use that. The planet's already tipped on its back. But what happens if you started controlled meteorites? And you hit it at it, and you broke off some fragments. And this would be more towards the dark side, so that the star doesn't get it. Because if it does, it might start to heat it. And then it might create it to have propulsion on it. What happens if you then are able to collect those mounds? Controlled detonation. In order to make them sort of come up but slow down and get trapped in the gravitational influence of the planet itself, which would be this way. And then you're able to start chipping away at that. And then let's say you're able to separate the gases. Which was it? Hydrogen and it was carbon, wasn't it? Yeah. Let's say if you're able to separate that, you've now got hydrogen abundant gas that we have. It could be a lot of things, but you also got the carbon. What could you do with that? Well, could it go into creating more plants? Can you convert that into oxygen and with the carbon repressurize it into making water, liquids? And then how much liquid can you get off of that planet and turn it into fresh water just by utilizing the very structures that you have? And what does this teach you, really? Well, it teaches you, one, how to destroy a planet, how to create something from it. Yeah. Sure, it looks good as a planet, don't get me wrong, but if there's no life on it, I think life takes a higher priority at transformation in this as to recycle the planet. Nice as a planet, but wouldn't it be nicer for the planet, maybe, if I was a planet? Sounds weird, but still. If these little fingers came about with their little thoughts and were to slowly but surely erode a planet like Uranus down into a place where you could harbor a lot of life forms inside it. The planet never truly goes away, does it? It then becomes even more sacred. Never mind carving into a tree, you'll be carving into a planet to make what? Little modules. The futures will begin to expand, or they'll let go of them. But what it does do is it gives an abundance. You want to be able to stack the deck against you. Nature happily runs away with itself, doesn't it? It just needs a few conditions met. But then if you were able to make an ocean in that, and create a massive vat in metal, line it with glass, whatever else, who knows, whatever it may be, and find a way to put light in there, perhaps from solar panels on the outside versus perfect lights on the inside, or whatever it may be in the beginning. And you were then able to salt it and then create your own ocean inside that. What would you do to... what would you do if you were to see that? That becomes it every day. Wouldn't that become sacred?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Very nice.
Could you imagine viewing that? And maybe there might not be a window on it, but perhaps things get better and better to the point where you can put a window on that, make it transparent. Probably not, but still. That would be interesting. Then you are harbouring life more so. That gets to run away. Oof. Before you know it, you've got fresh water, because again, it can sweat, so it might make salt crystals.
Yeah.
We drink sweat. We drink sea sweat. And then we sweat back into the oceans anyway, don't we?
Yeah.
Impurity versus purity. That's a weird process, that, isn't it? That sort of cycling there, isn't it? Well, same thing at the end of the day, but even still. Once it wasn't needed, yes. And again, if we're talking Uranus, let's say if you could make multiple, how many Earths can you get out of Uranus?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Many, but I don't know.
Okay, let's say how many atmospheres? Because we don't think in atmospheres really, do we? How many atmospheres, Earth's atmospheres, could you get from Uranus? And if it's like 1,000, that's a lot of potential, isn't it?
That is.
And then depending on how big the next layer is and what it's made out of, you'll find that out as you go along. And then this is just one solar system, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then the next solar system and the next solar system, before you know it, there's massive life forms. And then there's more reach. You see, humans' reach is similar to planets. Planets at their core, with no atmosphere, means that you can fall around the gravitational pull more closer, yes? The bigger the atmosphere, the further away you have the fall ratio is. If you get caught up in that, then you meet resistance due to the atmosphere, the particles, molecules, whatever you want to call it, the dust, anything else. And that will capture you in that. Humans' reach is a little different. Yeah, it's very different. Still, you've got the same reach. It's all about your numbers. And robotics, as much as they're grand and wonderful, they really are, I just don't think the essence there really... I think a combined version of these two forces, life forms, robotics, coming together to meet in the middle, I think that is beautiful. That is far more beneficial. It's a weird way to clone, isn't it? It's already a step towards cloning. Twins. Identical twins, they're fascinating, but they lack. Most people think that they share. No, not 100%. I'm going to go on to that one on another one. Don't want to do it just yet. So, yeah, I want to stick on more on this. But, yeah, robotics, humans, and coming together with those two forces, I think, is the most powerful, I think. And, again, the human has to teach the robot how to work, especially in these types of environments. Don't you think so? Because once it knows how to make a certain type of module being good house for you to live in, knows all of the water and the structures that go into that. You then teach the robot how to build what needs to go next, which is like a puzzle. Here becomes the containment area where you live, explore, and do what you need to, your personal stuff. And then you're going to need some grow room. Not for you to grow, also that's your grow room, but this is the plant's grow room, where it needs to grow, flourish, and all types of food in there. At the moment, we see the planet. That's poisonous. That's poisonous. That's edible. That's not edible. Cook it, then it's edible. That's edible. This is not. The earth gives you this mess. Or this force gives you all of this clutter. But doesn't mean that the poisonous stuff is not worthy of anything. That's not what we're saying, or anything insignificant, because these can always evolve to grow into trees. Have you noticed how plants, especially bushes, they almost draw the tree they want to become in their leaves?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Mm.
This is what I plan to be. That's an interesting sort of pattern there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Especially some of the small ones.
Yeah.
So I look at that and think, that's where you're heading, isn't it? That's what you want. A picture without actually saying this is where I achieve. And because we've only come into it now, we might not have seen that some of the largest trees that we've got probably started off as nothing more than insignificant weeds to begin with. And then after expansion, after time, and the conditions favored them. And some of them that were really big shrunk back down. So if we then go and get rid of all the poisonous stuff, we might overlook something. That maybe they're toxic because they're small and mighty, but if they grow and they become bigger, they create more pulp around them. The small and mighty will become the seeds, which are toxic. So surrounded by a luxurious flesh that you can eat and sustain life from. So yeah, one biome for really wild, one biome for all poison. You have a field day in there, quite literally, and one biome, which should be the main one that we understand, of all the edibles that we can eat now.
Yeah.
And then that becomes your grow room, your life support system, and everything into one. Plankton, yeah. Again, if we were making these vats from Uranus and the next generation, extend them, the amount of plankton could they get in there, where that thrives. To the point where it overgasses itself, maybe, that wouldn't be good. But again, you could tap into that. And it's polluting more oxygen. It becomes a chimney, yes, but rather than it polluting carbon dioxide, these chimneys are designed to pump in as much oxygen as they possibly can. So much so that we're now outnumbered in oxygen, and we'll hold all the rest of this plankton in a bag somewhere, and we'll grow it later, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll keep it in this small. Do we need any more? No, we don't need any more. We're making so much oxygen now that we can't even breathe fast enough to replace what they're giving. See, pollution in one way, detrimental, scary, theory. Oh, God. But what do we need to do? Well, we already know the process. We need to make a reverse chimney. How do we do that? Well, we're going to make this thing pump out lots of oxygen. Lots. And it's going to, its fuel source into this fire. Oh, well, probably all of these things, but it's no longer a fire. But it's mainly carbon is going into this one. It probably is going to be a waste product, and then find a way to defuse that. As opposed to fusion. Stars fuse, black holes. Well, I'm going to separate all of these particles back into hydrogen. Love the work you did, but just, and you know what? I ain't sharing this gas with you. We like to burst together. Whereas the stars are like, yeah, watch me put all of this stuff together. Ta-da. Yeah, so if we can learn that, and I think this force can teach us this, don't you think?
Yeah.
To be able to defuse all of this stuff. It would be great to take a pile of shit. Sounds really vulgar, but it needs to be said. Take a pile of shit and defuse it back into hydrogen. Could you imagine doing that?
Yeah.
Chuck it in. What are you going to do? Defuse that into hydrogen. Lovely. All the way back into a gas, and then you roll it forwards, and then you're like, there you are. It's a piece of iron. What's that for? Your horses. Just made you some... You just did that with my shit. Are you a magician? Kinda. You're a universal magician, and one side of the wing is dark and one side is light, and in contrast. So the light is in the dark background. There's a light background with dark spots into it. It's interesting. So the wings, if you like, angel wings or dragonfly or butterfly or whatever you want to call it. Interesting. And do you ever think there's dark lightning? Maybe. And how would you see it?
I don't know.
We'd need a light background, wouldn't you?
Probably.
Do you think it's there?
I don't know.
The seen and the unseen. Do you think that's what magnetism is? Do you reckon? Some type of magnetism?
Yeah, you cannot see it, can you?
No, you can't. But anyway, perhaps it's not that. But even still, just wonder about this stuff. Ice burns, heat burns. Interesting, isn't it? Do you reckon you could ever start a fire with ice? If you made it create enough friction, do you think you could? That's a weird thing, isn't it?
Depends. I never thought about that.
It's stupid, but even still, it's like trying to make water with fire. Hmm? Anyway, still a weird one, but still, yeah, this lightning one is fascinating to me. Is there an opposite force to the lightning? And then what is it? Yeah, a lot of energy, but still. Yeah, there you are. So I think I'm going to leave this one here. Maybe I want to talk some more. I don't know. I love this one. This whole subject is fascinating for me. But for humans collectively, where do you want to be in all of that? And anyway, yeah, so teaching the robots, there we are. Lost my train of thought, and it just come back. I want to finish up on this. Once you've taught robotics how to build your whole habitat with life support system, with a plankton area, you get to swim through it maybe. And again, inertia is something, isn't it? Traveling very fast and slowing down. What happens if you're in water?
Yeah.
Especially if you start looking a little octopusy and you have a lot of breathing apparatus on. Does that break the inertia or I don't know. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does, but even still, fascinating. Artificial pressure in space, I think, would require water. Because if you sit in the center of it, depending on how big it is, it's got to mimic atmosphere a lot more. But there again, there's a lot of pressure, isn't it, in order to create that liquid in the first place? But not really, because the International Space Station can make water in the space station when they squeeze it out and it goes. Yeah, I just wonder what it feels like to be inside that. If you could make that bubble any bigger. That's what I look at when they're doing it, and they're doing all of that sort of stuff. I'm like, yeah, but what happens if the water did that to you? And you're in the middle of it, sort of thing. You've got a breathing mask apparatus on, so you don't drown, essentially. You could. But if you had this on, like a snorkel, yeah, I'm probably connected to life support. What does that do in terms of exercise? Or to... So it must be a mission, right? Put your exercise bike in there. Your artificial gravity, you say? And then the more of it there is, isn't that more pressure on you? And then just by moving through this, swimming builds the muscles more so than any other activity. So I found being able to swim. Do you know how I know this?
How?
If I go for a run, I don't feel like eating afterwards. Maybe for a few hours afterwards. If I do exercises, not really. If I've been swimming, I'm freaking shaking. I need something to eat at the end of it. Have you ever experienced that? Like you're so hungry, I eat things I've never eaten before. You know, people used to say, you always get hungry when you come to the seaside. Yeah, because I'm wading through fucking water. What do you expect? I'm utilizing so much energy to fight this bloody force.
Yeah. I recall. Yeah.
And you come out looking like something. Oh, you been at the gym? No, I've just been swimming. So yeah, in space, what does this become? I think it becomes a medicine, but it's how you get it up there. Could you imagine lifting that much water up there? That's got to be so heavy on a rocket. That's going to require more fuel to lift it. Gee, me. Plus the weight of the fuel itself. Oof. Yeah, that would be interesting. So it would probably be better to get it in space by knocking it off a planet somewhere. And then converting these gases. All right, it's a bit backwards, but...
Find a way.
Yeah, knocking some objects off, yeah. Europa. Bit too salty for my liking. But you could move the vat closer to the sun, sweat it all off, leave all the salt crystals behind. Could you imagine putting that on your dinner? Hey, pass me the European salt. Yeah, I've seen it. Some of the price tags on salt because it came from, I don't know, somewhere really far away. It's like got a beautiful label. And I'm just like, so why has it got the chemical ingredient on the back of this then? You know, I thought you was just sweating salt water, but obviously not. This one's from the salt flaps. Is it? It's great for you. It's got so many benefits to you. Do you want some? Yeah, all right then. Oh yeah, I've got my European soap. Salt. You could sell spas with this, couldn't you? Honeymoon on the moon? Oh, come on.
Bring honey with you.
Bees in space, animals in space. And yeah, I'm fascinated. So yeah, the Earth is so overpopulated with all of this stuff. What happens if you divide it up? And then how much more relaxed would the animals become? Lions used to be cool, you used to be so vicious. But when you take away that prey mindset, predator, and you feed them food wrapped in a different way, do they become tame? Do they stop looking at things that move? And humans, by association, move, so they might... Will it turn off their aggression? I think it will. And then, what energy does this allow through? Do you think that animals in the future will learn to speak? I think yes. Yeah, let me give you a little clue, right? Factor in a chip that goes into a database and everything else. Once you understand what animals see, so if you could put this into the part of the brain of an animal, right? That when they see food, what they see in that moment will be all gibberish in the machine. But the machine will see it and it will notice a pattern, right? And all of these animals seem to share this same pattern. Therefore, there must be something trigger in the brain that represents hunger. Yeah. You can then identify that as hunger. Then these patterns start to make sense. It's basically learning another language, but technically it's animal language. Yeah, I think these things are capable of talking. Then once you're able to understand that and make sense of it, do you think that then there's a way of being able to, as opposed to transfer it, like taking a human brain and shoving it into a lion, just seems like... It's Avatar, but it's backwards. That seems weird. It would act like more like a human, but look like a lion. Be like Troy. Is it the horse? They tricked him with a horse into battle. Yeah. I don't know how the hell you fell for that. But anyway, still, it's the story. But rather than doing it that way, you can do it artificially, can't you? You can take the data. What happens if you teach them young the stuff that humans understand, that bit of awareness that humans have? What would happen then to an animal that grows with that awareness? Is it going to be able to... And perhaps it won't tell you, not with words, with roaring. Maybe some do. But it will be able to tell you in telepathy by putting it into the database. If it understood the database, computers are universal, right? They seem to understand everybody attached to them, don't they? Well, it did me. Most teachers, no criticism to teachers, could not read the shit I wrote. Yeah? And let alone trying to teach me how to spell a word when I was younger. Not that it's a disadvantage or not, really. It's just opened my eyes to something. And I was given this eMate. First transparent computer I ever saw. It was beautiful. You get to see on the inside. Laptop, actually. This was many, many moons ago, by the way. And when I go to spell a word into it, it knew what I meant. So when I ask a teacher, yo, 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 you know, people think that you're special because you got this. I don't know about that, really, but still, having bits missing, and that's special. Okay, right, so when you get the teacher to come over and be like, what does that say? I don't know what it says, right? But I give it a best go at spelling a particular, I don't know, writing sentences, ghostwriting or whatever it was called, put it in. And the computer had come up with this correction. But I didn't know whether it was the right one, because I had no idea. That word that I was trying to spell looks like this to me, but the computer has given me this gibberish. I understand this one because this is Terry language. This one here, fucking no idea. This is English, whoever wrote that. I get a teacher come over. What is the word you were after? This, this, and this. Yep, that's correct. How the... I was like, and you have a look at this. What does this say? It was then like, I was like, so you don't understand what this says. But the computer understands it. And I just found that fascinating how it then bridged a gap not only between me and the English language, but it also bridged a gap between me, that, and the teacher. It was not one way process, it was a dual way, and it seemed to be the sort of bit in the middle that... Yeah, I loved computers, I love technology, I really do, especially with the spell checking and everything else. All that time, you're sort of suppressed in that. You know what you want to say, but no one else knows what you're trying to say. And then the computer's like, I got you. It's like this, and then they read it back to me. I'm just like, this is magic. This is fucking magic. So if you take that whole process there, with that particular thing where the teacher then understood some of my key words now, because he learned backwards through the technology, yes? Yeah. Which actually changed the relationship between me and him. So, and it was because he did this. Just by that little act there, it bridged a gap not only between me and him, but him and me through the computer. So he would learn that this word meant this in my vocabulary, and then was able to then tackle the issue with this a little bit. It took a little bit more longer time, but there again, you need one-on-one teacher for that. Expansive in other areas, but just very restricted in this bandwidth here. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? We all want carbon copies of one another. But even still, there's that data backwards, isn't there? This bridging gap. Now take that with humans and animals, and the bridging will be the computer system. So the computer will make sense of it and be able to translate what that animal is thinking. I'm hungry. Mm-hmm. Then if it's able to think that and become aware of that thought, I mean, that's an interesting thing. Oh man, that's going to give you a whole new discussion about God. Yeah, everyone, it will reignite the spiritualism and all the rest of it, whatever you call it. Yeah, it's wonderful. If you can relate to that as God, then it's God. If you can relate to that as ancestral, then it's ancestral. I look at it as a compass. Each way on the compass points you in a different direction, so you can kind of see it. If you believe that that's this, this, and this, that's your filter. That's where you go. We're all on about the same subject, but it will reignite it. Oh, the discussions will be hot. Once again, religion will through. I don't know if it's like a religion or a new religion or a understanding. Yeah, it bridges the gaps between a lot of people in that aspect. So yeah, and then this aspect, boom, this even further. Ooh dear, yes, this would be a good way to exist, don't you think?
Yeah.
And then playing around with elements, that's my favorite one. So, you know, the periodic table, one standard, the universe on a natural environment will go from 1 to here. It won't ever go anywhere beyond that, but it might reach just slightly below it, but it doesn't matter. It will reach its benchmark. And let's say if it's iron, it's not, but let's just say it is iron. Technically, it could be black hole, actually, couldn't it? That's another element, but still, whatever. It creates the very thing that destroys it, and the thing that destroys it creates the very thing that then creates it. Oh my days, get your head around that. But still, if the benchmark is iron, and the universe naturally will never go past iron, it may go below it, but it will never go beyond it, naturally. And then humans come out, and they're like, what makes a star? This, and this. What happens if I do this? Start putting things together, and then you go past that benchmark. Now, you've got a periodic table of this, and now you've got the second one. Then you've got the third one. Then you've got the fourth one. Yeah, this is the same. Humans are not different to periodic tables, really, in the way you progress into the universe. So humanoids, they progress on their periodic table of wisdom and knowledge and what they can do. And yeah, they no longer sweat this stuff. They no longer sweat this stuff. They no longer sweat this stuff. They don't sweat this stuff. Yeah, money's great. Wonderful. Yes. Lovely. But it can go up to chapter 2, money version 2.0. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's still trade. You're still trading something for something, can't you? Then there is actual trade as well. Well, we found some of these. Do you want to swap it for some of those? That seems to melt things down. What about shoving it all into one big database? So you've got a great big resources cabinet that anyone, anywhere, at any time with your species can go into it and take what they need from it. And then that will factor into machines that print things. And then the more you destroy, the more you can transform into something that's no longer baseline. One place all natural wild. One place that's all of the, you know, the wild, the hunting, all of that sort of shite in that sort of biome. One where it's a little bit more tame. What about one where they're all separate? There's more than enough life forms to do it, isn't there? Then it'll make you wonder, which one's cruel? Which one causes more problems? And then you are proving to this that you are. Which side are you? Do you like to watch all of this stuff here? Call it natural and watch it all struggle? Or do you give it a helping hand? The same way it give you a helping hand to then go on to give a helping hand through you to other life forms. That's interesting, isn't it? That is fascinating, isn't it? That's the reach. Yeah, so just humans? Nah, many life forms are out there. Look at your planet, it's infested with life. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. We're going to dive into it at a later date. I'm just putting pieces up, and I shall expand into these. But it's the cloning one. I want to go into that probably at a later date. But yeah, things to do. But yes, let's leave it there.